Grace Turner tapped her phone awake early that morning, expecting to see the usual alarms and work reminders. Instead, 3 banking notifications sat on her lock screen like tiny warning lights. She frowned and took a slow sip of coffee in her small Boise apartment. Everything felt normal until she unlocked the screen. Her heart dropped. 380. 380. 380. 3. Identical charges posted in the middle of the night. What? That can't be right, she whispered. Her hands trembled as she opened the transaction details, though her face stayed calm. The same professional mask she wore every day as a financial auditor, but inside, a cold panic spread through her chest. The charges were for 3 business class tickets with American Airlines. Grace blinked, stunned. Impossible. I haven't bought flights in months, she whispered to her empty kitchen. She opened her Gmail next, but her password, one she'd used for years, was suddenly rejected. She tried again and again. On the 3rd attempt, a message appeared. Your password was changed 1 hour ago. Her breath caught. Someone had been inside her accounts while she slept. She quickly tapped Forgot Password, selected Phone Recovery, and reset her login. The moment she got in, she froze. The recovery email used for the change read, pgarcia.momail.com, her mother's old email address. She stared at it in disbelief. Grace forced herself to stay still, thinking like an auditor rather than a daughter. The pattern was obvious, but her mind refused the truth. My mother wouldn't, she murmured. But the evidence kept coming. In her inbox sat 3 airline confirmations already opened, each for a ticket to Maui. 1 for her father, Mark, 1 for her mother, Patricia, and 1 for her brother, Eric. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother lit the screen. Thank you for gifting us the family trip, honey. I knew you'd be generous. Love you. The coffee in Grace's mouth turned bitter. She swallowed hard as memories of the previous week flashed back. It started when her mother created a family group chat titled Turner Summer Retreat 2026, as if everything was already planned. Grace had muted it after seeing the first message. Grace offered to sponsor our Maui trip. 2 days later, the family Zoom call exploded. Grace sat at her kitchen table, trying to correct the lie while the rest of the family discussed snorkeling tours. Flights are around $860, Patricia announced sweetly. And Grace, darling, you're the only one without kids, so it makes sense you contribute the most. Grace kept her face neutral. Mom, I never agreed to pay for anyone. Oh, sweetie, you promised your father at Thanksgiving, Patricia replied smoothly. That's not true, Grace said quietly. But now here she was with $11,940 stolen while she slept. Remember, I was working in Seattle. He froze, realizing the truth. But he wasn't done fighting. Families help each other, Mark snapped. When your brother needed bail money, I paid it. When your cousin needed her transmission fixed, Virginia covered it. Grace saw her opening. Speaking of Aunt Virginia, how many times have you used her credit card without asking? Mark's face faltered just for a moment. That's different, he said quickly. How? Because she never confronted you, Grace asked softly. He didn't answer. Grace stepped closer. Leave now or I call the police and play this recording. Mark's eyes widened. You recorded me? Idaho is a one-party consent state, she said. I only need my own permission. Mark swore under his breath, then stormed toward the door. We gave you everything, he spat, and this is how you repay us. Grace didn't move. The door slammed behind him. Moments later, her phone lit up again, this time with messages from Aunt Virginia and Cousin Hannah. Aunt Virginia. Grace, did your mother use your card again? I found strange charges on mine. Hannah, Grace, did Aunt Patricia ever borrow your card? She used mine last month. I just got billed $100. Grace stared at her phone, realization hitting like a punch. She wasn't the only one. She was simply the first to catch it. She took a deep breath and dialed the non-emergency police number. An officer listened carefully as she reported the identity theft, detailing dates, amounts, and bank statements. Your case number is 84221ID, the officer said. We'll be contacting your parents shortly. When Grace hung up, another notification appeared. Fraud investigation complete. Charges reversed. The $11,940 was coming back to her. That night, as rain tapped softly against her windows, Grace opened a blank document on her laptop. She began organizing screenshots, emails, texts, charges, every breadcrumb of betrayal. She tried to write a letter to her parents, something explaining everything. But halfway through, she deleted it. Some things can't be explained anymore. Instead, she opened her journal. Love cannot exist without respect. Financial boundaries are emotional boundaries. The words stayed on the page like a truth she'd been waiting her whole life to write. A notification timed. Emergency family meeting tonight. 7:00 p.m. at Aunt Virginia's. Instead of fear, Grace felt something new. She packed printed statements, screenshots, and a small Bluetooth speaker. Her father's recorded confession echoed in her ears. "We've used Virginia's card before." Nobody said anything. Tonight, the silence would end. Grace parked 3 houses away from Aunt Virginia's colonial-style home. She arrived exactly at 7:00, never early enough to be cornered alone, never late enough to seem dramatic. Inside, a semicircle of chairs faced the doorway like an interrogation room. 13 sets of eyes turned toward her. Her mother sat in the center with tissues pressed dramatically to her face. Her father stood by the doorway, arms crossed, blocking the exit. "She's here," and Virginia announced gently. A chair sat directly across from Patricia, the hot seat. Grace sat down calmly, fold her on her lap, phone recording silently. Patricia sniffed loudly. "Honey, we're all so worried about you." No one in the room looked worried. They looked angry and rehearsed. "You've been forgetting conversations," Patricia said, her voice shaky but controlled. "You promised to help with the trip." "Everyone heard you." Grace said nothing. Cousin Brandon leaned forward. "Your mom said you're overwhelmed with work. Stress can make people mix things up, and financial pressure can affect memory," Aunt Virginia added carefully, clearly repeating something she'd been told. Mark took a step closer to the door. Classic intimidation positioning. "Do you understand how much you hurt your mother?" Melissa, 19 and privileged, demanded. "She's been crying for days." Patricia dabbed her perfectly dry eyes. "Sweetie, we just want to understand." Grace finally spoke. "Would you like to know why I called the police?" The room fell silent, completely still. Without waiting for permission, Grace passed out the credit card statements. "These are the charges," she said calmly. 3 tickets, $3,980 each. Bought at 2:17. Mom, while I was sleeping. Uncle. Robert studied the papers, eyebrows rising. "And these," Grace continued, "are airline records confirming they were business class. Not age 60 economy like Mom told the family." Patricia's face drained of color. "That's not... And here is the recovery email used to change my password." Grace held it up. Mom's old AOL account. The room broke. Aunt Virginia stiffened. "Patricia, is that true?" Before Patricia could answer, Cousin Hannah spoke softly. "And Patricia, did you also use my card? Because I found charges I didn't make." The truth cracked open like ice breaking. Mark tried to step forward, but Uncle Robert blocked him. "Sit down," Robert said coldly. "We're not done." Grace connected her phone to the Bluetooth speaker and pressed play. Her father's voice filled the room loud and clear. "We've used Virginia's card before." Nobody said anything. Gasps. Betrayal. Patricia's face twisted. "Grace, how could you record your own father?" "Idaho is a one-party consent state," Grace replied simply. "I had every right." Aunt Virginia stood up, moving to Grace's side. "This stops today." One by one, cousins and relatives began listing their own unexplained charges. 2 decades of quiet theft unraveling in a single living room. Grace watched the walls of her parents' lives collapse. For the first time, they had nowhere to hide. Patricia stood abruptly, rage, replacing her trembling performance. "We don't need to sit here and be attacked. Mitchell, let's go." She grabbed her purse and tried to push past Uncle Robert, but he didn't move. "We're not finished," he said quietly. "There are too many patterns." Here, Eric, Grace's brother, finally spoke from the far corner. His voice was small, almost defeated. "Mom, Dad, you ruined my credit. My score is still 520 because of loans I didn't take out." Patricia whipped around. "Eric, don't be dramatic. I'm serious," he whispered. "I couldn't get an apartment last year. Grace helped me rebuild. You didn't even ask me if I was drowning." The room fell painfully silent. Grace felt every word hit her like a bruise. Patricia's face shifted. Rage, then denial, then cold calculation. "This is a misunderstanding. We did what we had to do for the family." "No," Aunt Virginia said, stepping forward. "You did what benefited you, and you used us to cover your tracks." Mark turned red. "Everyone calm down. Families go through hard times." Cousin Hannah held up her phone. "Hard times don't explain. 3 charges from a clinic I never went to." Uncle Robert's voice was sharp. "Patricia Mitchell, this isn't a family dispute anymore. This is fraud. And the evidence is overwhelming." Patricia's mouth opened in protest, but no words came out. Her performance was gone. Her excuses were gone. Her control was gone. Grace stood slowly. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She simply said, "I'm done." Patricia's eyes widened. "Done? What does that mean?" Grace picked up her folder. "It means I will not be responsible for the mess you created. Not financially, not emotionally, not legally. You can't walk away from your family," Patricia hissed. Grace paused at the doorway. "You walked away first every time you used my accounts without asking. Every time you lied. Every time you chose manipulation over honesty." Mark stepped forward. "Grace, don't do this." "I'm not doing anything," she replied softly. "I'm finally stopping what you have been doing for years." She walked out without looking back. 2 days later, they ambushed her again, this time in the parking lot of her workplace. Her parents, silver Lexus, sat crookedly near her assigned space. Engine still running, Patricia stepped out first, her face tight with fear and arrogance mixed together. "Grace," she said quickly, "we need to talk. Please, 5 minutes." Grace didn't break stride. "I'm going to work." "Just listen," Mark insisted, holding out paperwork. Grace recognized the forms instantly. Emergency loan applications. Home equity line of credit paperwork for 01k withdrawal forms. Patricia thrust them toward her. "The bank is demanding the money back. We need you to call them and say it was a mistake." "No," Grace said. "You have to," Patricia snapped. "Do you understand what happens if you don't?" Grace nodded. "Yes, and I'm at peace with it." Patricia grabbed her arm. "You'll lose us," she warned, voice sharp. "We won't come to Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthdays. We'll cut you out of everything." Grace shook off her hand. "You already did that when you used me like an ATM." Mark stepped closer. "Grace, people will talk about you. Your coworkers will hear things. Your reputation." Grace glanced at the office entrance as 2 colleagues walked by, trying not to stare. "My reputation is safe," she said calmly. "Yours is what's falling apart." Patricia's mask finally cracked. "You think you've won? You'll regret this. You will regret it for the rest of your life." Grace unlocked the office door. "Maybe, but at least the consequences today are honest." She walked inside, leaving them frozen in the sunlight. 3 days later, a certified letter arrived at her parents' address. Her lawyer's seal embedded at the top, cease and desist written in bold underlined letters. The packet included the police report, the bank's fraud documentation, the audio transcript, the list of unauthorized accounts traced back to Patricia's recovery email. The final page clearly stated any further. Contact will be pursued as harassment and obstruction. By that afternoon, the bank had officially transferred the debt investigation directly onto Mark and Patricia. Grace closed her laptop and took a deep breath. It was done. News spread through the family within days. Aunt Virginia called first. "Your parents canceled their country club membership," she said. "They can't afford it anymore." Cousin Hannah texted next. "Saw your mom at the grocery store today. No designer purse. No screaming at the cashier." Uncle Robert added, "Mark's furniture store reduced business hours. The bank is reviewing their mortgage." Grace listened quietly, offering no satisfaction. She didn't need revenge. She needed peace. And peace was exactly what was forming slowly, tenderly, like a bruise healing. For weeks later, Grace received another call, this time from Aunt Virginia. Her voice was gentle. "Honey, your parents listed their house for sale." Grace sat at the same kitchen table where this all started, running her fingers across the wood grain. "Are you okay?" her aunt asked. Grace exhaled slowly. "I don't know. I'm figuring it out." The family had fractured along lines that were always there, just hidden. Some relatives stopped speaking to her. Others stepped closer. A new kind of family began to form, not from obligation, but from choice. And Grace welcomed it. 7 months later, Grace stood in her apartment kitchen pouring morning coffee. Her space felt different now. Warm, safe, peaceful. A new security panel glowed by the door. Bank accounts organized, passwords protected. Her financial literacy workshop materials neatly arranged on the desk. Her phone chimed. A message from Eric. "Credit score hit 640 today. Thank you, Grace." Another from Hannah. "Sunday dinner. And Virginia's cooking." Grace smiled. This new circle, small, imperfect, rebuilding, felt more like family than anything she had known in years. The coffee finished brewing. Grace sat at her kitchen table with her journal open. Her last entry from months ago stared back at her. Financial boundaries are emotional boundaries. Love cannot exist without respect. Her banking app buzzed. New notification. Credit score excellent, 812. She inhaled deeply. Her student loans gone. Her car loan paid off. her savings growing steadily, her self-worth unshakable, all because she chose herself. A knock sounded at her door right on time. Eric standing there with breakfast, sandwiches and his improved credit report pulled up proudly on his phone. "Look," he said with a grin. "I finally did it." Grace stepped aside, letting him in. The apartment filled with warm laughter, sunlight, and the soft hum of a life rebuilt. "We're proud of you," Eric said quietly. Grace looked around her home. The safety she created, the peace she fought for, the family she kept, and the family she walked away from. "Eric," she said softly, "I'm proud of me, too." And for the first time in her life, she truly meant it. Thank you for watching. And please remember to tell us where you are watching from today. Hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more of this.